Hello.
Hello. Today's October 2nd. We haven't talked for a long time, have we, Morten?
No, we haven't. You have been
Yeah.
busy and I have been busy.
Yes, lots been going on. I think that's really a cool topic for our conversation today is tell me all about what's been going on in your world. Big, big changes.
Yes, big changes. Um, we are very excited about what's going on, and I think one of the things that's really important to understand about this work, what we are doing, Susan, is to be able to rest when you're resting, be able to go with the flow when you are with the flow, like waves. Life is like a big wave, and it's really important to be able to stay with whatever is going on.
Yeah.
We had a long period where we honestly did the same thing over and over again, and I really understood that we had to stop. We just had to wait and see what happened. We stopped the training for a while, and we needed a change. I didn't know that we needed a change, but I just were holding everything in a open space, and I didn't do very much. And of course, the people who has been on our training was confused, very confused.
Uh, while you're changing things.
But yeah, and when I change things, people get confused, and there's a lot of resistance.
Mhm.
And but I'm used to it. I have done this for many years, so I know when it's resistance, I'm in the right direction. So we were working with the owners in the. We have a place where we have our business, and we have a company that we talk with, and we went for a walk in their. What do you call it, Susan? The environment they own.
Uh-huh. The
Yeah,
building.
yeah. And from one day to another, we went for a walk, and they said this is a new place that they're going to have a company who's going to rent it. And we said, Brigitte and I, who's doing Ennead in Norway, we said, well, this is the place for us. And and they said, but there's somebody who's going to hire it. And I said, no, this is the place for us. And the day after, they call us back and say that the other company have said they're not going to do this. We can have it, and you can start with 1 year and see how it's going for you guys. So from one day to another, we get a new place to do our Ennead training with the nine energies.
Show the space.
So we have this beautiful center. It's actually 450 square meters, and I can see the sea and I can see the opera.
That's amazing. It's right downtown Oslo in the main train station that overlooks the harbor. It's very special location.
So
I'm so excited for you guys.
It's amazing. And what I did is that we just said that, okay, we're opening a new place where we can create our own energy. And in the beginning, nobody came. It was so nice. I was here in the morning, 8 o'clock, nobody shows up. And after the second time, 2 people came. Third time, 4 people, 5 people. And we started to do the identification. We had a 6 from a country outside. She came into the center and said, this is it. There's so good energy here. And she did it. It's so good energy here. It's so nice. She was so turned on. And so I was working with her and did the identification. And she said, it's so easy when people can take the train and come and be here. So now we have training 3 times a week. The old people start to come back again. But it's not that I not want them to come, but I want to change the whole idea about the teaching. My whole idea about the teaching. This is what I believe in right now, and it's just something that's going on for me, and it's so important that the people who wants to learn this have to show up, have to come, have to be eager to learn. It's not something you learn them. As soon as you start to learn them, as soon as you start to create a school, there is expectation of having people to learn something that we have done for so many years. Is not possible.
You don't think it's possible to teach? This is one of my questions right now, because we started a school. I had a 2-month program. We took people to Burning Man, and they didn't succeed in learning anything new at Burning Man about how to identify it. In fact, the entire environment was too difficult. They were barely able to just be with themselves during that period, no less learn anything new about 9 energies.
And the reason why, Susan, is that as soon as you get into the 9 energy work or the Ennead work, which we are doing, you try to put it in a place together with something else, which is not possible. It is not something else. It's something unique, and it's not something you can compare with meditation or consciousness training. It is 9 different bodies, it's 9 different energies. It's not been presented to the world in a way that people can see it and understand it yet. It's too young. So what happened with people is that they come into this space where you are doing this. You are able to do the identification. You are able to teach it, but their brain and their bodies doesn't have the capacity to take it in. It's not possible. So I have been teaching for many years and have the same people. They get to a certain level, then you have to leave the idea of teaching. They have to be able to take in and learn by themselves when they have opened the 9 energies in their body. That's the first thing we do. Then they start to learn. The only thing you can tell them is that they are in the wrong direction sometimes.
They don't like to hear that, though.
Doesn't matter. That's the only thing you can do. You're going in the wrong direction. Because this is so joyful and it's so full of energy, so that in the moment something happened in the present moment when you are doing something, the body takes it in and they're so happy about it, and they forget every struggle they have done until then. If that doesn't happen, they don't learn, and then you can say you're not in the right direction.
So you just said a very 3 thing, Morten, which is if the joy is not present, nobody's learning.
No.
Okay.
Or you, if it's not alive, and if it's not its drive of love and the warm feeling I get from you, when you get warm in your face, you see a person. If I can sit there, Susan, and I can enjoy and like what you are doing without competition or anything, I can't learn.
Mm. Well, the experience for me of trying to teach at Burning Man and trying to teach those 2 months before we went was really important for me to understand actually all the things that I do in the process of identification. Yep. I learned a lot of specific things of trying to understand what I was doing in order to communicate it to another person. But what I found was I could teach some of the specifics, but the body level understanding of what I was doing and why I was doing it, how I was doing it, and how to use the body was the piece that, so that they could do what I told them to do while I stood next to them. But as soon as I wasn't there, their own veil came down and hid them from the process again.
And it's very interesting, because you know how many years you used to be able to stay with the energy you are working with. Many, many years. So in the moment you get in front of a person and, okay, you don't know what you're doing because you don't know what kind of type this or energy this person has. You have to be able to be so in your body by yourself, together with the other person at the same time. You have to be so incredible tuned with what's going on in your body. If not, you're completely, your brain is taking you far away. And when that happens, if the person you're going to teach or person who's going to learn not know what's happening in that moment, they're not learning anything. So they have to be eager to come to the training. They have to be eager to go through the desert, or to go through the woods, or to go to Burning Man, or to be with me in the mountains. I mean, I was in the mountain for 1 week, terrible weather. Some people came, we did the identification. I have one of the people, he's an 8, Thomas is an 8, and I can say it now because he needs to learn this. And it's completely okay to be honest about it. So he came up and he stood in front of an 8, and I have been doing the 8 with the person, and he did something so weird that the other person was thinking, do I want to be here or do I want to go? So I said to him, Thomas, sit down. You shouldn't work anymore. Okay? So instead of him learning what's happened with him, he got so disappointed that it took his 2 months to come back to me.
Mm-hmm. Disappointment. God, shame, fear, and disappointment. Yeah. Oh my God, they just kill you.
And the most important thing, competition.
Well, competition sets up the inevitable feelings of shame, fear, and disappointment.
Yeah. So So when we went through this, when I went through this with my teachers, and when I went through it through all the things that I put myself into, I do it because I have to change. I have to challenge the wanting of doing it. I have to constantly challenge I have a plan. I want to do it. And it has nothing to do with that. It has everything is about being with that person you love in front of you. Everything. It's not about learning. If you want to learn something, go to a school.
Well, so I'm hearing you. I really am. Help me process a little bit about what happened at Burning Man for me, just because it's still so new. I'm 1 month out of the desert. We were there for 2 weeks. We had 5 helpers, 3 2s, a 9, and a 3. And we had the hottest, most unpleasant physical year. Hot, 105, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, very, very hot.
Oh.
Every day, hot at night, 95, 100 degrees at night. So I didn't sleep well. But when I was on the mat, I was okay. When I have a mat that I stand on when I'm typing people. So when I say I'm on the mat, I'm typing, I'm identifying. And I could be with people, and I could, but my body was breaking down. My feet hurt very, very badly this time. So I had to take breaks and take care of my feet. And 1/5 of the people that I worked with were Natural Energy 1. So I did 500 people, 112 were Natural Energy 1, and 70 of those were men.
Oh, wow.
Everything else statistically was more or less as expected. Even distribution of men and women over the total group. But I spent over 1/5 of my time in Natural Energy 1 when I was standing on the mat.
Source energy, yeah.
And so I spent days, literally days, standing in deep source level connection, transforming with these young men, these beautiful young men. So something important was really happening there. So I'm going through this source level, hitting right up against the edges of this magic. And everybody else in my camp is doing Burning Man. And I became very disconnected from the camp, which when I look back, I was like, of course I became disconnected. I was actually in a space floating in source. And I was trying to teach. And that failed.
Okay.
Almost everything I did, except for the identification stuff, failed. All my stuff in being a leader of my community did not work. Didn't work. Came back and everybody was like, "No, I'm not doing 9 energies anymore." They all quit 9 energies, all 5 of them.
Good.
Some of them have maintained friendship, but still not everybody. You know, it's like, okay. So I came back and I got really sick. A month I've been sick, and then we went to Lyon, and then we went to London and did a magical set of events in London. Came home, and now I'm finally well and finally energetic and finally doing things. So I am looking at, well, do I start the school back up now? I have people that want to learn how to do this. So if I'm going to start the school back up, I don't want to get to the place where I got last time, where people make a certain amount of progress and they disappear. And so I'm really struggling with how do we teach this? And I guess what you're saying is we don't teach this. They learn from the experience of being in the room with themselves and other people.
Yeah. So you have this incredible capacity, Susan. I really honor you for what you do. I mean, your capacity to do the identification is unbelievable high. Okay. So I'm sitting on the other side. It's sitting here in Norway, and I know you so well. I can feel what's going on with you. So I get the feedback from you have been in the desert working with 500 people. Amazing. But what you do is that you create this lovely connection with people, which is pure magic. Okay, pure magic happen, and when pure magic happen, people get scared, disappointed, or start to compete because they're not capable to be with it, and then they start to nag on you. That's what they do. They start to nag on you. They start to eat on your own energy, and when you do the identification, which I have seen so many times, is that you get into that space where you do only the identification. So you're not capable yet to teach when you do identification.
No, I'm not. That's clear.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
So if I was there teaching them when you did the identification, we might have success. Okay. So you're not capable of doing that yet. That's the feedback from me to you.
Yeah.
When I do my teaching, I'm not capable of doing identification. I have the opposite, because I've been teaching for 15 years, but I haven't that condition of identification as you have. So I screw up everything if I start to do identification when I'm teaching.
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong about it. It's just the way it is. And of course you have this drive, which your 6th energy really comes to the surface, and you bring it out in the world. Amazing, fantastic. But it's not possible to be with that if you're not trained for years. Martin can be with you. I can be with you. Maybe your kids can be with you.
Not even. Yeah.
And
you and Martin.
Yeah. So you just
and Paolo's starting.
Yeah, maybe.
Paolo and Penny also, potentially.
Yeah. And they are 7s. I mean, they can probably stay with the change so fast. It's so fast. What's happening when you start to do the identification, and after 10, 15 people, you're a completely different person than you were when you started. Mm-hmm. So with the best intentions to bring them into the work, I think we need to change the whole idea about this. And we wait until we get people who want to do it, even if they don't succeed the first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I don't care.
Well, there were so many heartening things that happened too. You know, like we went to London and I sat down with Penny and I did all 9 with Penny. And Penny left New Equations really before any of the school stuff happened. So she had no training in how to activate the energies in her body. She had all 9 active in her body. you know, what we did in the past, and her attention to it, and her, yeah, she was able on her own to learn how to activate all the 9 energies in her body. She'd read my book, she'd done her practices, she like Birgit did the same thing. Birgit found a way to activate all 9 energies in her body, separately and on their own, without someone specifically teaching them that. So that to me is really, really heartening. It means you can take my book, be identified, practice the physical things, do the meditations that you guys teach. We can give people exercises and to learn to have the body awareness, at least in their own body, of what happens when I activate a different set of muscles and bones to create an energetic awareness. So that part is really heartening to me. It means that people can actually learn the pieces. Then the other piece is like when it all comes together, there is absolutely a period after which the person, you know, has a blowout. There's no doubt. There's a blowout, you know, that happens, but they come back around to in a new place. And there's this relaxation and this ease with self that starts to happen when you have all 9 of them active, right? So then you can start learning on your own in a different way. And then you can start to learn to push and to be pushed on and to, but it is, you know, the body has to be so active and available.
No, I am not agree with you. In the end, everything is correct into the end. They're not able to do anything yet. You have to be with them when they screw up over and over and over again. So they're not learning anything yet. Do you know? So you're only learning when the love or the joy or the understanding or the new energy comes into the house. That's the only place where you learn. But you can tell them when they're not learning, when they think they're learning. So Birgit, she's able to struggle and don't go away, which you did, which Morten did, I did, Paulo did. She was able to struggle. So the other day we had a person in the center, and I have worked with her before. And then I know you work with her. And she was mistyped. And she came back. And I had Birgit to work with her for a long time. She was in another place to be mistyped. She was mistyped. She came back again. And she worked with her and she did the identification. And it was the same as me and you. She's a 7. She was a 7. She was mistyped in between. It doesn't matter how did it happen. So she was confused about that, but she came back and wanted to have the experience. And Birgit worked through everything, so she was able to find it on her own. Okay. She was able to be with the struggle. The people you have with you who leave are not able to be with the struggle when they're not learning anything. So you have to be able to go to Burning Man and not learn anything for 1 week and say, it's okay, I continue. So that's why we have to change this. And this happened with Thomas, the 8-2. So he came back after 2 months. Last week he came back.
Good.
And now he was standing in front of an 8 again. So I worked with her. She was really solid, beautiful, 25 years old 8. Okay? He stood in front of her. And then she went down. And he went down with her and they pushed. And he was so happy. And I said, no, you understand. Yes, no, I understand. I didn't do anything. No, that's the thing. And he was full of love, and he had forgotten everything, the struggle that he had been through the last 2 months. When I know his brain, I've been thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. And I hate Morten because he's the worst teacher in the world. So that's why we can't teach them. We can only be with them and tell them you're on the wrong direction. And then they have to figure it out, like a flower is growing in the earth. And if it's not strong enough, they're not growing. This is what Martin went through. This is what you went through. This is what I went through when I was sitting 4 years in the woods alone and did my meditation until I was activated all mind. So you just put your program out. If one person shows up, he shows up. If another person, but we can't have the intention to teach them. We have the intention to just hold them, whatever they do. Doesn't matter.
So there's no curriculum. There's just a process. There's just a sign up for the next 2 months, show up for 2 months, sign up for the next 2 months, show up for 2 months.
That's when we get confused, is when we start to, because this work is so about what's happening in the moment. I mean, one day the person is so beautiful, so happy, so lovely, so in their strength. The next day, do you see them, they want to kill you.
Well, that makes me feel better because I'm a human being, and I have to separate from that wanting to be liked and my own human things, because it's hard to lose people, to have a deep connection, to have a beautiful experience, and then have them walk out the door and say, this is not for me. And you're like, but you said.
Yeah,
and not to go into my own pile of shame, fear, and disappointment and manage my way right back out of that
and I understand with your incredible capacity to do the identification, and when you put all that energy into people you are going to teach them or learn them, they will explode. It's not possible, Susan, for them to hold what you are bringing in of energy and love and experience. I mean, you're most likely the person who have most experience of identification in the world after our old teachers. It's not a secret. It's just the truth. And I'm not trying to brag or something, but I am teaching 500-600 people in 3-4 different groups, and I have given them all up, and I start over and over again. I don't care if they continue or not. So I have that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they come back, I love them. It doesn't matter. And they will not learn it. They will be it. They will never learn it. As soon as I learn something, I'm hooked on my own, ego, what I think I know. It's only happening when new energy comes in. I think it's beautiful that it exploded in Burning Man.
It was awful. I was like, my response was, I'm never going back. I was so sick and I'm just so tired, so upset. The good news is I'm on the other side of my struggle now. I'm back into like, oh, all right, let's go. I got a lot to do. And it's good to have energy again. And it's good to have that sense of accomplishment. I mean, it was pretty amazing.
I think what you have done, Susan, because you are who you are and full of love and you're a 6, is that you actually have taken their struggle on you. And you're not Jesus Christ, so you shouldn't do that anymore.
Right. And I'm no interest in being Jesus Christ either. No. I know, it's I've had such beautiful counsel from all of my 8 friend and my 4 friends. She pointed out that there's a reason there's a veil between us and source. because it's really big. It's probably bigger than our physical forms can hold. So the veil has to be there, you know, and to be as close to source as I was for such a long period of time, that alone was enough to disembody me um, at a pretty profound level. And to witness the beauty of these 112 people and their ability to bring that magic into the world was very profound. And there's deep sadness because our men don't know how to quiet the voices of shame and fear and disappointment, and how to, our male ones, and step back from competition so they can bring their gift here. And so they're very much in pain. I tell you, I've never seen a group of people more in pain than this group of people. And but it was at the same time amazing to be able to actually speak truthfully to them about their purpose. And
well, you know what comes to me, Susan, when you're talking? I'm wondering if you have been on the other side through that experience, and that's why you get trouble with your body. You have been, so, you know, when you pass.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what Sandy said. So it's like, well, that was a brand new, I mean, I live in this physical moment in my body, and I wasn't living in my body, and I had such trouble with my body.
And it's timeless, so you probably need that time. The body need that time to go through the, you know, there is a saying in the old Tao, use your sickness to get well. It's something about the body goes through things that's really difficult, so you can rearrange the body to be able to be with the spirit that you are capable of being with.
Yeah. You know, and through all this, none of my commitment has wavered. I just was kind of bitchy.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's okay. I really think it's okay to be who you are, to be able to do what you do. And because the most important thing for everybody to understand is about, it's not about the people who is there to learn this or to get what they want or to try to do the same as you. As soon as you get into that space, you're a different person in a way, or you are the person you really are. And you give this love or source or what you do with the people, it's not possible for a person to understand if they're not open to love it. It's not, I mean, we have seen this for many years, Susan. I mean, how many experiences you have, and you see the people around, they just look like question marks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just staying with it no matter what, you know, just, and every now and then a light bulb goes off, you know, and then it's worth it because the light bulb went off and somebody gets it. And
so the new route for us now is not to create what you call it a platform. This is what we're going to go through. The only way to be with this, to get it into our bodies, is to show up, be together with people, and what happens. And when something happens, you learn from it, or you are in the wrong direction. If it doesn't happen magic in the evening, you invite people into, or people come to you. When it's, then maybe it happened next time. It doesn't matter. And you see through all this year, every time we try to create something, a school or a platform or a system, it blows up. Every time.
I think it's just, you know, what seems to have worked is creating opportunities.
Yes, and it's beautiful. I mean, it doesn't. It changes your way of looking at how you are going to be with this work when you are going to bring it out through other people's.
Yeah, it's, well, that's why I'm starting the natural energy specific video calls. Today is 4 at noon. If you want to be on, please, yeah. I'll send you the
link.
The link. And I'm really excited about that. And my plan is to sort of mute out anybody that's not a 4, so you're just seeing 4s. And everybody else can watch and participate, but have it just be about being with 4s. And the next book that I'm working on is the parenting book. Small, specific. How do you parent each one of the natural energies? You know, what's the do's and don'ts, the owner's manual you wish came with your kids, you know? And so I'm going to start asking questions about that. You know, what worked when you were parented and what didn't work? You know, how could you have been supported more effectively?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with this next set of opportunities. And I'm excited about these. I think that, you know, I'm going to get 6-8 people of each natural energy on every call. And that is
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the aliveness in there. That you see, that's alive, and what you do is alive. When you try to construct something in this work, it's like it's getting hard. It doesn't work when we want to construct something. You just need what you do now. And I mean, you went to Burning Man, and it's amazing what you do there for Burning Man and for the people who is there. And if somebody came in and now they don't want to be with you, I mean, so what? The percentage of them, based on the percentage you have been working with in Burning Man, is a 0.01. You see the math here.
Yeah.
But we think about the 4 people who wants to come and learn. No. Think about what you have done for the community.
Mm-hmm. We had 28 countries.
It's amazing.
512 people. I had another 50 people that came back from prior years, at least. Yeah. We worked with 5 or 6 full camps where everybody in the camp practically, got identified. Yeah, we had, it
back on your calls, and that's what is alive.
Yeah. All the groups were more females than males, except the 1s and the 7s.
Oh.
Which I thought which were a lot more men than women. And I think that might just be Burning Man. You know, Burning Man is about beauty and self-expression. Yeah. And it's a place where 1s can go and really explore, and 1 men have permission to be in their full spiritual nature there. Because Burning Man is not about competition. That's one thing that actually really isn't there. There's no judging. There's no contest. There's just be you and have that be beautiful. And so I think both 7s and 1s, male 7s and 1s, have a freedom at Burning Man that they don't have out in the rest of the world.
It feels for me, Susan, that we should talk about competition for a couple of minutes so you can be clear about what you mean. And since I have been the best competitor person in the world, I can talk about it too.
Well, the way I look at it is any interaction that causes you to put someone ahead or behind somebody else. So essentially that includes a judgment of value related to the experience. Because when you're putting somebody above or below, you're automatically creating a separation between us that actually isn't there.
So you have to be more clear. What happened specifically with the people who were there? You don't need to say names. You just say person 1, person 2.
At Burning Man.
Yeah.
One experience was I asked a person, I said, please push on this person in natural energy 5. They're a 5. And then that person took it upon themselves to actually re-identify this person as a 7. And from the outside, I could see what was happening. And the head wasn't quite in the right position. The body wasn't quite in the straight line, but the person working with that person couldn't see that. And it was essentially their favorite energy. So they became convinced that this person was a 7. And then they used that convincing that this person was a 7 to convince themselves that they knew she was a 7. And that was, so, and then that person got completely confused when I said, no, actually that person's a 5. And so that person descended into shame, fear, and disappointment, and pretty much stopped being willing to work with people because they thought they trusted something. They didn't know why they trusted it, and they didn't know why it wasn't true. And so that caused this competition with themselves that triggered deep shame. And
this is why I say you can't learn them.
Teach them.
You can't teach them, but you can tell them when they're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And finding a way to do it. I didn't do so well telling that person, that.
That's okay. So I'm just.
My learning, right? Yeah, I can be a little nicer sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay. You're a 6. You shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be, should be. It's an interesting question. We can talk about it another day.
That's okay. I don't care about that because what I care about is that the person who really wants to do this has to get to a place where they can start to listen to a person who actually prove what they're doing. Not say that you're a teacher or I hold you up high, but you just prove it by what you're doing. So we just need to be patient about the people who comes into this work until they learn it. And I think you as a person who put so much energy into this work, you don't need to have that struggle to convince anybody of what is right and what is wrong. So you have to wait.
Well, that's what Morten said. Morten said, Susan, it's your tent.
Yeah.
You decide, whatever, someday if it's this person's tent, they'll decide. But right now, it's your tent. And there's stuff I have learned that is very apparent to me, but apparently is not apparent to other people yet.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but it's consistent. And sometimes I'll still make mistakes. So it's this, I was like, well, okay, the checking, is that a mistake? Is there a possibility that I made a mistake? Is there a possibility that I missed something? Is there a possibility that I misinterpreted something? Because that stuff happens, especially when you start to get tired. Yeah. Or there's a lot of people pulling or whatever is going on. And so it's that, and this is related to not competing with yourself, right? Because if I misidentify somebody and move them along through the process to talk to somebody and they're not happy, that becomes apparent. The person is not happy. Yeah. If the person's not happy, you don't have them right. That's just really simple. So then I have to be able to really to accept them back from a new starting point. Yeah. And if I have any shame, fear, or disappointment running in my body around the initial misidentification, I will never be able to type that person. I'll never be able to identify their natural energy because I will be unpresent from the shame, fear, and disappointment. And that is the self-management piece that I talk about a lot. It's like, in the moment, you must manage yourself. And if you can't manage yourself while you're standing in front of a person, you cannot identify. Simple, straight up truth.
But you see that there is a very interesting thing about the competition brain, because the competition brain has one interest, and it's to get to its goal. I still have a competition brain and constantly working on it to get back to my body. But the competition brain is working like this. It wants something. It wants to be, it doesn't matter if it wants to be right or wrong, but it just wants something. And that when that wanting is going on in the brain, you can't see anymore and you can't listen to anybody anymore because you are right. The competition brain is right. He doesn't understand what's actually is going on. So a person who goes into a competition state in his body and mind needs to do something completely else for a long time to get back to themselves, because the driver in the competition brain is so hard. So a person who gets into that maybe needs a month or 2 or 3 or a year. I don't know. It could be 2 hours, 1 hour to get back to the normal state again. And of course,
that could be what happened with the 5th person at Burning Man with us.
Yeah.
That they did not know how to relax into what was happening to allow anything to actually come in. It was too big for them.
Yeah.
And so I think what they did was they made a decision not to let anything new in and to remove themselves from the relationship with what we were doing so that they could be right.
Yeah. So when I learned when I learned about my competition brain, I had to stop every competition I did in my life, my biking, my business, everything that I competed in, I had to stop for a long time. So my brain was relaxed enough to feel, so the body can feel again what was going on, and then I could listen and see. So I think this is important for everybody to really understand that as soon as that it is a special drive. Competition is a special drive. It's different from shame, fear, and disappointment. It's actually not in touch with shame, fear, and disappointment, because that happened afterwards when the brain is relaxed again. Then that comes up.
So the drive hits you. The drive drives you into this wall. Shame, fear, and disappointment become the state when the competition basically is complete.
Yeah. And then it takes time for the...
Either that or you go up the adrenaline high because you were right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing better than being right, right?
And then you say, okay, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. They all screwed up. It's not me. It's all about them. And that's okay. I mean, it needs to, for some people, it needs to happen, and it needs to take the time it takes to get back to themselves again. And it has nothing to do with you.
And yeah, that's the self-management, remembering that, in the moment has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And there's always learning. There's always learning. There's a lot of things I could have done better. Because for me, my learning edge is, how do I be a leader in this?
No, but you have to understand that you can't do anything what you didn't do. So you either haven't learned anything. So for me, from the outside, I have to tell you, you didn't learn anything.
Me?
No.
Oh.
You didn't learn anything from that. When you said to me that, okay, I could have done something differently. No, you couldn't have done something differently. What can happen is that next time when the circumstance is different and new energy comes in when you are together with people, then you learn the teaching. But you didn't learn anything there.
No, I've learned something since, when I go back and say, oh, look at, this is how I responded when it was hard. This is how I responded when it got really hard. And when it got really hard, I know there are other options for me than what I actually did in the moment. And Burning Man makes things hard, man. It puts everybody on their outside edges.
And that's what I'm talking about here, is that when it's alive and it's beautiful and it's nice, which you were talking about, the source energy, that's the place where you spend your time to understand what you actually learned. That people leaves you and don't want to be with you when you do what you do, it's not something we learn from. But it's very easy to look in that direction and see, maybe I should have done it in a different way. I mean, if you have done it in a different way, then you knew what you were doing, then you learned something. You understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So for me,
the human interactions on the mat versus off the mat, it was like two different me's. It was two different states of being. You know, once I came off the mat, I had nothing left.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's important for us to give out the message now about this meeting today, is that even if they don't understand what we're talking about, we just tell it and see what happens. The person who wants to do what we are doing needs to be capable of loving what you're doing when you are together with people. The rest of it is just bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So, I mean, Alan said once, if you're not, and he basically said that once to me, and I remember hearing him saying, if you're not loving what you're doing, you're on the wrong path. And it's like, what do you do when you notice that you're there? I mean, I spent a good part of the last month, well, no, I was just recovering. I was recovering. The resting when you have to rest. Hard to do for me also.
It's hard for everybody to understand that the universe, since you have signed up for this, the universe just walks you through what you need to be walked through to be capable of continuing your journey. You're not in charge. We think that we are in, you think, or I think, or another person think that we are in charge of what we're doing. We're not. We can do our best, but you know this and I know this, as soon as I get in touch with another person's soul, something else is happening. Mm-hmm. That's why we do this. Mm-hmm. And it's only happening when we are together with that person that create the relationship and the frequency and the energy and the vibration of each other in the same moment. So we are completely equal. Completely. And I learn from the person and person learn from me, and new energy comes in and it changed the world. And you need to be able to at least feel it in your body when it happens. I think that's one of the first thing.
For people when they're learning?
Mm. Because then I think they start to learn. And learning is another concept here than we have been. As soon as we start to create something that we want people to learn, they're not learning anything. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about the plant is growing because the sun is shining and it gets the right water, and it's a healthy environment, healthy earth, and it's growing by itself. It has to be by itself. So I keep coming back to Birgit and Martin. I mean, Martin loves you, and he stayed with you, and he went through all these things that he went through to be able to stand with you, and he loves it when you do it. He's so proud, he's so happy, and he can see it. I mean, he sees people's soul. And the same with Birgit, she see it, she feel it. It's not the same level, but she does it, and Martin does it, and it's only because they have been together with us. It's not because they were supposed to learn it.
Well, no, they've learned it on their own, as you say. They've had all the water and the nutrients and the sun, and they've blossomed.
Yeah,
because they have had the environment, and they've been around it, and they've learned from the experiences. Yeah. It's true, I didn't teach them anything.
when I was a teacher for Birgit in the beginning, we were almost destroying our relationship. It doesn't work, and I don't believe it works anymore with the teaching that we. But I schedule 9 evenings, and those who come, they come, and when we come, then we have to create something together. I'm not going to teach anything. You can sit in the 8 position in 1 week if you want. If you want to learn it, you do whatever you want to learn it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited to start our next 2 months here in Bozeman. Yeah. We have every Monday at noon Mountain Time, which is 7 in Norway and 11 in California in the morning, 11 in the morning, 7 in the evening, and then every Monday for the next 8 weeks. And then we have every Tuesday is the teacher training, Wednesday is identification, Thursday is exploration. And then I have a club starting at MSU for the students next week or the week after. And then I have a whole group of 16 resident associates for one of the freshman dorms that are going to get identified next in 2 weeks. So I have some very exciting and fun things that are happening here. And then we'll decide what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this conversation today, Morten. Always makes me feel good to talk with you and help me understand what's going on and what we're doing with this, because it's nice not to be alone in the process. So I appreciate, all you're doing to move this forward.
And thank you for doing what you're doing.
You too. Okay.